Something is clearly off in Baltimore. And it's not just the injuries. It's not just the disappointing record. It's not even just the missed tackles or the lack of red zone conversions. What we saw this week from John Harbaugh told a much deeper story. A coach under fire, unraveling in real time, and no longer hiding the pressure that's been boiling beneath the surface for months. During a tense press conference, John Harbaugh snapped at reporters after repeatedly being asked about Lamar Jackson's injury status. And let's be honest, that's not just another question. We're talking about the franchise quarterback here. Lamar Jackson is the engine of this entire team. His health, his availability, changes the ceiling of this Ravens squad completely. So naturally, reporters did what they're supposed to do. They asked, they pressed, they followed up. And Harbaugh? He wasn't having it. Not even a little. Instead of giving the standard coach speak answer, or at least deflecting with some composure, Harbaugh chose sarcasm, snappiness, frustration. He cut off questions. He deflected to the injury report with a dismissive, "Why don't we just wait and see tomorrow?" And later even said, "How about I just don't say anything?" That's not confidence. That's not control. That's a coach on the edge, tired of the noise, and it showed. But here's the thing. This isn't about a single moment at a microphone. This is just the latest flare-up in a season that already feels like it's slipping. The Ravens are banged up, yes. 13 players on the injury report from the active roster, plus another 9 on injured reserve. That's 22 key pieces either out or limited. Starters like Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey, Ronnie Stanley, and of course, Lamar Jackson. And behind that avalanche of injuries is a team that looks, quite honestly, defeated. Watch the games, and you can see it in the body language. The sideline energy is flat. The execution is sloppy. And even with Lamar on the field in recent weeks, it's felt like the Ravens are waiting for something to click that just never does. Now with Lamar sidelined, possibly missing Week 5 against the Texans, the pressure has never been higher. This team doesn't just need a win, they need an identity. They need something to believe in. Right now, they've got neither. And Harbaugh knows it. That's why he's cracking. The tone of that press conference wasn't just annoyance. It was fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of another wasted season. Fear that his message might not be landing in the locker room anymore. Because let's face it, the results haven't backed him up lately. The playoff record in the Lamar era is disappointing. The big game collapses continue. And now, with a wave of injuries ripping through the roster, Harbaugh's old "next man up" mantra is starting to wear thin. But the weirdest part? It's not just the fans or the media noticing it. The players seem to feel it, too. On the field, the Ravens look like a team that's emotionally drained. Flat starts, mental errors, no fire, no swagger. And that's what really makes this moment so crucial. Because when a team starts to look like they've quit on their coach, even a little, you're in dangerous territory. Now, zoom out, and here comes the Houston Texans. Also 1-3. Also fighting to get their season back on track. But the energy around Houston? It's different. It's younger, hungrier. And honestly, even with the same record, they don't feel as broken as the Ravens do right now. They just came off a confidence-boosting win against the Titans. Their rookie talent is flashing, and they're heading into this game knowing they've been embarrassed by Baltimore before. They've got a chip on their shoulder. Meanwhile, the Ravens are hobbling into Week 5 with 22 injured players and no answers. The defense is a mess. The offensive line is in shambles. And if Lamar doesn't play, which seems likely, Cooper Rush is the one getting the call. Yes, that Cooper Rush. The longtime Cowboys backup who's now being asked to rescue a season that's already hanging by a thread. It's hard to sugarcoat that. Let's be real here. This matchup was supposed to be a bounce-back opportunity. A get-right game. But now, it's starting to feel like a make-or-break moment for the Ravens. And for John Harbaugh, it might be bigger than that. He's already thrown his offensive coordinator under the bus. He's taken passive-aggressive shots at his players. He's cutting off media questions like he's protecting a classified mission. That's not leadership. That's panic. The most revealing thing might not even be what Harbaugh said. It's what he didn't say. Asked again about Lamar's availability, instead of offering hope or clarity, he bailed on the question completely. "I don't really think it matters," he said. Think about that. Your franchise quarterback might miss a pivotal game, and the head coach shrugs it off like it's no big deal. Either he knows something we don't, or he's desperately trying to spin the optics of a season spiraling out of control. And that brings us back to the field, because all this drama off the field would be manageable if the team was performing. But they're not. Defensively, this Ravens unit is statistically one of the worst in football. They're bottom 5 in total yards allowed, passing touchdowns allowed, rushing touchdowns allowed, you name it. They've allowed over 170 rushing yards per game at home in their last 3 outings. They've only managed 4 sacks all season. They're not just underperforming, they're getting exposed. The secondary? Loaded with former first-round picks. Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, Jaire Alexander, Nate Wiggins. But you'd never guess that watching them on Sundays. Missed assignments, broken coverages. And outside of Kyle Hamilton, there's been very little to hang your hat on. Marlon looks like a shell of himself. Jaire has barely played. And the guys that were supposed to be depth pieces are now being thrown into the fire and getting torched. On the offensive side, it's not much better. The line is leaking pressure like a sieve. Tyler Linderbaum just hit the injury report. Ronnie Stanley might miss another game. The guards are underwhelming. And without Lamar back there to make magic, this offense goes from dangerous to dead in the water real fast. Which brings us to Derrick Henry, the Ravens' new bell cow back. He's been solid when used, averaging nearly 6 yards a carry, but he's only had 49 carries all year. The usage just hasn't been there. And when you're struggling like this team is, that's inexcusable. Especially when your best offensive weapon isn't at quarterback this week. The Ravens need to get back to basics. Run the ball. Control the clock. Keep the defense off the field. But even that is easier said than done when your O-line is decimated and your coach is micromanaging his way into bad decisions. Houston is coming in with fire. Baltimore, they're just trying to hold it together. And the difference in energy is glaring. The Texans are seeing opportunity. The Ravens are feeling dread. And all of it is playing out in front of a fan base that's seen this movie before. So now the big question. What happens if Lamar Jackson doesn't play? What does this team look like without him under center? And more importantly, can the Ravens win without him? The answer right now doesn't inspire much confidence. With the way this roster is banged up and with how disconnected the team has looked on both sides of the ball, it feels like they're heading into Week 5 with more questions than answers. Cooper Rush, who's expected to start if Lamar is out, is a steady, experienced backup. But he's not a difference maker. He's not the kind of guy who can create something out of nothing like Lamar can. He doesn't have that improvisational magic. And against a Texans defense that ranks among the best in the league in points allowed, pass defense, and situational football, it's hard to see him out-dueling C.J. Stroud or pushing the Ravens over the top with sheer playmaking. So that means one thing. The Ravens will need to lean on their run game heavily. That includes Derrick Henry, who despite limited usage so far, has still looked sharp when given the chance. He's averaging well over 5 yards per carry and remains one of the most physically imposing backs in the league. But here's the thing, he can't do it alone. Baltimore's offensive line, currently held together with duct tape and hope, will need to step up in a massive way. The interior line has been bullied. The tackle play has been inconsistent. Tyler Linderbaum is now battling a calf injury. Ronnie Stanley's status is up in the air again. Roger Rosengarten hasn't taken the leap fans were hoping for in year 2. Every hole in that line has been exposed already this season. And now they're facing a Texans front 7 that flies to the ball and isn't afraid to bring pressure from multiple angles. If the Ravens can't create lanes for Henry or by rush a couple extra seconds in the pocket, it's going to be a long afternoon. And if you're expecting the Ravens defense to bail them out, don't hold your breath. This unit, once known for its toughness and aggression, has been anything but. They rank near the bottom of the league in almost every major category: total yards allowed, passing yards allowed, third down defense, red zone stops. They've only forced a handful of turnovers all season, and none against any team other than the Browns, which is wild when you realize their last interception came all the way back on Christmas Day last year against these very Texans. That kind of drought speaks volumes. It speaks to the lack of impact plays, the lack of energy, the lack of execution. The secondary is packed with first-round pedigree, but they've been getting cooked. Jaire Alexander, when healthy, hasn't looked like himself. Marlon Humphrey's struggles have become too glaring to ignore. Nate Wiggins has shown flashes, but he's still a rookie, and now he's banged up. Kyle Hamilton has been one of the few bright spots, but even he can only do so much when everything around him is falling apart. And maybe that's the scariest part. It's not like the Ravens are just one or two players away from figuring it out. This looks like a systemic issue, a culture issue. From the coaching to the preparation to the execution, there's a disconnect. And that's why John Harbaugh's behavior this week feels like such a red flag. This isn't just a team struggling with injuries. It's a team that looks like it doesn't believe. And when your head coach starts snapping at the media, cutting off questions, and laughing sarcastically in front of cameras, it raises real questions about what's going on behind closed doors. Meanwhile, the Texans smell blood. C.J. Stroud is settling in. The offense is gaining confidence. The defense is flying around and making plays. And as much as people have slept on this team over the last couple years, this version of the Texans isn't the pushover Baltimore used to dominate. They've got young talent all over the field. They've got a chip on their shoulder. And they're looking at the Ravens like a team ready to fall. And honestly, they might not be wrong. When your own coach starts questioning the commitment of his players publicly, it says something. When players like Roquan Smith and Patrick Ricard, two of the toughest dudes on the roster, are on the shelf, that hurts not just the talent pool, but the tone in the locker room. These are emotional leaders. They set the energy. When they're not on the field, it shows. That's why this game is so critical. This isn't just about getting to 2-3. This is about stopping the bleeding. About showing you still have a pulse. Because if the Ravens drop to 1-4, especially at home, against a team they've historically owned, the noise gets louder. The questions get tougher. And eventually, the excuses stop working. This is where coaching has to matter. This is where leadership has to shine. And right now, we're not seeing it. Instead, we're seeing confusion, frustration, a lack of composure. Harbaugh is coaching like a man who doesn't have answers. And even worse, like a man who's running out of people to blame. Todd Monken's play calling has been inconsistent, sure. But when Harbaugh goes out of his way to criticize his own offensive coordinator and pressers, it doesn't sound like leadership. It sounds like desperation. And defensively, there's no hiding behind the injuries anymore. Zach Orr has not made the adjustments needed. This unit isn't just banged up, it's underperforming. For sacks in 4 games, that's not Ravens football. That's not championship defense. That's not even functional defense. You've got veterans like Kyle Van Noy playing big snaps because there's simply no one else. You've got rookies being thrown into the fire. You've got breakdowns at every level of the field. And worst of all, no one looks like they're having fun. That's the thing about vibes. They're invisible, but you can feel them. Watch the sideline. Watch the body language after big plays. Watch how this team responds to adversity. It's not the same fire we saw in the early Lamar Jackson years. It's not the same swagger that made Baltimore one of the most feared teams in the league. It's cautious, tense, almost like they're waiting for something to go wrong. And then when it does, no one knows what to do. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. The NFL rumor mill is buzzing louder than ever tonight as whispers swirl around one of the league's most electrifying talents, TYREEK Hill. Sources close to the team have hinted at what could be a seismic shift in Baltimore's offense. Yes, the Ravens are reportedly in talks to land the star wide receiver. If true, this would mark a dramatic twist in the team's strategy, signaling a potential overhaul of their aerial attack and sending shockwaves through the AFC. Fans at M&T Bank Stadium can barely contain themselves at the mere suggestion. Social media has exploded with speculation, memes, and excited chatter as diehard Ravens supporters imagine the speedster donning purple and black. Hill's reputation as one of the league's fastest and most dynamic receivers precedes him. Defenders know him as a nightmare to cover, capable of turning a single play into a game-changing moment in the blink of an eye. Pairing him with Lamar Jackson could create a duo that defenses simply cannot ignore, blending lightning-fast receptions with Jackson's improvisational genius. But as thrilling as the rumors are, insiders caution that nothing is set in stone. Negotiations are reportedly in the early stages, and while optimism is high, NFL deals, especially one of this magnitude, often hinge on a complex mix of salary cap considerations, roster adjustments, and timing. Still, the buzz around Baltimore is palpable. Conversations among fans, analysts, and former players alike speculate endlessly about how the offense might look with Hill streaking down the sidelines, how defenses would react, and which existing receivers might be impacted. Regardless of how it unfolds, the mere possibility of Tyreek Hill in purple has ignited imaginations. Could the Ravens become the league's most feared offensive powerhouse? Could Lamar Jackson finally have the ultimate deep threat partner to stretch defenses? Only time will tell, but for now, Baltimore is in a frenzy, and the NFL rumor mill shows no signs of slowing down. Stay tuned, because if even half of this buzz comes true, the Ravens' skies are about to get a whole lot faster. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.